saved us by the power of his blood, made us to be a kingdom of priests, serving his God and Father. To Christ be glory, dominion, and power, both now and forever. I am weak. Most people boast about their strength, right? I'm a big guy, 220 pounds at 6'2". I'm a health gym nut. But beyond all of this, I was chosen, right? Because I'm weak. But it is Christ in me that ultimately makes me strong. Even at the gym, while pumping weights, I am pumping weights to that of the Word of God through gospel music. Christ is making me stronger. But really, the question is, who said that you had to be strong or to endure this all by yourself? The body in itself is weak, medically speaking, so much so that if COVID comes into the body via the virus, it will cause serious permanent damage to the immune system and can cause ultimately death. There are humbling occasions in life that call for the assistance of someone else. By yourself, it couldn't be done. But with the help and the aid of someone else, it could be done. I was struggling, right, in seminary, and it's been, over 10 years, almost 10 years since I've graduated. But I was wrestling with a very difficult class entitled Church History. It's a two-part class, two-part, meaning one semester, and then the second semester is the second part of it. And I remember recalling my professor's advice before even beginning seminary. And he said that do not be afraid to reach out for others for help. Now, with me struggling through this class, Church History, it was unimaginable for me to reach out to someone because I felt as though I had everything, all the tools, all the resources, the books, everything that I needed in order to master this class, right? This is a graduate level class and this is graduate school. This is a Master of Divinity. So I have everything that I need. My pride, my ego didn't allow me to reach out to help initially. But after struggling in the class, I decided that I would reach out to an honor student to help and support me with my final paper. When I submitted that final paper, I submitted it with the revisions and the corrections, right? I revised it with the grammatical corrections that this honor student made, and I received an A out of the class. So it's okay to admit, right, that you have some weaknesses. Why? Because Christ is ultimately strength. I have learned that you can do nothing by yourself, but with Christ, all things do become possible. You know those scriptures that say, the Lord is the strength of my life, whom shall I fear? Or I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. There are many ways, but there are only one helpful way. The way of Christ is pure. Every other way or every other person has motivations behind what you ask of them, and the help that you solicit from them may not even be helpful at all. Christ, his help comes in full perfection, and his help comes as a result, and motivation comes as a result of love for his child. So he wants you to succeed, and he will give you everything, including his life, for this life. Strength means the ability defined. That's how I define strength, as the ability. But how many of you understand that sometimes you do not have the ability? I have the ability to apply for a position at Amazon. I have the ability to apply for a position at Wells. But I do not have the ability to hire myself for the position. Apostle Paul, right? He had extensive revelations, extensive resume, right, concerning the New Testament, wrote majority of the New Testament, including many of the epistles. This man had serious revelations and visions. His contribution to the New Testament cannot be argued nor miscounted. But here in the text today, in our text, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7, Paul decides in this text not to boast in his accomplishments or his revelations or his writings or the churches that he's built, but in his weaknesses. He writes, on behalf of such one as Christ, I will boast, but not on my own behalf. I will not boast except of my weakness. Therefore, to keep me from being too elated, a thorn was put in my flesh. 3 times I appealed to the Lord about this thorn, as a messenger of Satan to torment me. But he said, my grace is sufficient for you. Get this now, in your weakness, right? That thorn that you wrestle with Satan, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power, this is the Lord, is made perfect in weakness. How many of you have ever been diagnosed with a disease or an illness or a medical condition? Normally, your inclination, like most people of faith, is to pray for a miraculous intervention, a miraculous miracle, if not a total healing. However, like Paul, the Lord has not changed the condition. He said 3 times he prayed for it, yet the Lord said, my grace is sufficient. It is believed that Paul in himself, from this particular text, suffered from some type of medical illness of some sort. He didn't disclose it, and in the text it wasn't explicitly written there, but there's enough information here to provide us with a hint at it. Nonetheless, the point is, this condition was not taken away so that Paul would not become too prideful and run ahead of Christ, right? Or think himself to be that of Christ or more than Christ. Christ is ultimately the strength and the power, and God specializes in picking weak individuals in the Bible to be a forerunner of his message. Let me give you some examples of some of the most amazing men in the Bible, right? Moses, right? The giver of the 10 Commandments, the one that was picked, the prince that was picked out of Egypt, correct? Moses had a speech impediment, yet God chose him. David in himself was a king and a man after God's own heart, right, as labeled. But David wrestled with adultery. He had a man, one of his soldiers, killed so that he could take that man's wife for the many wives that he has and sleep with her because she was just so beautiful. Peter, the lead disciple, now we're getting to the New Testament. Peter, the lead disciple, right? He denies Christ 3 times in the moment of difficult trial and despair and accusations from others, right? Because they were crucifying Christ. He was scared for his life. And so 3 times he denied Jesus Christ. Paul, the apostle, the epistle writer of the New Testament, Paul was a man who was persecuting Christians, so much so that Stephen, if you remember Stephen from the book of Acts, Stephen is stoned to death, and Paul had something to do with that because he was persecuting Christians as a Jewish zealot. God does not pick people like Harvard and Yale and MIT, those based upon proudness and intellectualism and the cream of the crop. No, but God specializes in picking weak ones. Why? Why is that? So that when people see the weaknesses in individuals and they see power and ability coming out of that weakened vessel, they have no other choice but to reflect that glory upon God, that ability upon God, right? So much so, this is why Paul says, I rather boast of my weaknesses so that the power of Christ will be made manifest in me. You know, there was a blind man in the Bible whom Yeshua and his disciples encountered and questioned, Rabbi, who sinned? The disciples asked Jesus, Rabbi, who sinned that this man or his parents? This man or his parents? Who sinned? This man or his parents that this man was born blind? And Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God would be displayed in him. I could end the message there because you get the point, right? This happened so that the works of Christ would be displayed in it. So think about your own situation. Think about your own condition. Think about your own diagnosis. Your weakness is for the benefit and the glory and the proclamation of God's power, his gospel in you. Get that? There is no other choice but to rely upon Christ in this moment of your need. Remember, strength is ability. So you don't have the ability to master this condition by yourself. But like Paul, there is no other option, right? But to declare yourself weak so that the power of God will be made manifest. That person is no other than Christ himself. Perhaps like Paul, right? This diagnosis, this illness, this condition was given and provided unto you so that you may draw nigh unto God, so that you can tap into the source of God's unlimited power and ability and strength. Christ is your help. Christ is the solid rock. Christ is the crutch to which you get yourself back up and back on your way. Now take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. And it's okay to say, you know what? I'm weak. I need support. I need help. It's okay to lean upon the solid rock, right? Because the solid rock does not give way. Other support, as I know, I tried even this past week to get other support and it failed, right? But this rock, the rock of Jesus Christ, is a firm foundation. It will not give way. Fear not, for I am always with you, declares the Lord. Thou art mine. Do not worry. This battle is not yours, but it belongs to the Lord. This power that you do not see, this ability that you do not see is coming through via family, friends, acquaintances, and so much. But if all of that fails, know that it is Christ that is revealing, manifesting himself in your weakness as ability. The Lord will not abandon his own, what is his, but he will endure and care for you and support you through you're protected, you're loved, and you're supported by the angels and by every type of divine assistance that is coming full force to help. God has not abandoned you, and God sees exactly what you're going through. You're not in this alone. This ability comes through God. Ability is what Christ is. So in summation, I leave you with the words of Paul. And he says, so I will boast all the more gladly in finalization. He says, so I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ may dwell within me. The song says, on Christ the solid rock I stand. His power is able to keep me from falling. One of my favorite songs, having done all to stand, he will make me strong. On Christ the solid rock I stand tall. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday. Now unto him who is able to do far exceedingly above all that we could ask or think, according to the power worketh within us, to Christ be glory, dominion, and power, both now and forever. Take care. I'll see you next week. Lean on the solid rock.